Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Foxtail Digital coming to you again with Black Girl Stocks. And this is another segment of our top 3 option plays this week, where we're just gonna go over a few different trades, stock fundamentals, and different strategies that you can do to make it through, okay? But first, let's go ahead and do a recap of last week's trades. Okay, so first up, we were looking at a bearish position on Lucid. What I want you to focus on is this intermediate 4-hour chart down here. We were starting the week off around here on the 29th, and you know, we can pretty much see here at the beginning of the week that position was already a no. The stock rose up to $3.80, so this was a no-go. But one thing to note is moving back up to the longer trend, we have, like I said, been in a pretty long-term downtrend, and sometimes, you know, timing is very important for these particular types of trades. Our expiration date was March the 15th, so this may be a position to look into for next week. So this one, I'm still going to keep Lucid on my watch list. And if I was going to, you know, potentially re-enter that, I'll probably want to have an entry maybe somewhere around $2.90, somewhere along there. But we'll see. But I may keep this on my watch list. But yeah, Lucid was a no. Now, we were also looking at a bearish position on SAV, or Spirit Airlines. Now, take a note here, we did have a slight drop on Monday. But to be honest with you, it wasn't really, there wasn't much profit to get from that position, and going into the remainder of the week, it pretty much consolidated. It didn't move that much, but we can look at the position just in case. So we were looking at the March 15th puts, $5 puts, and when we were looking at it, it was around 91 cents for the premium. Yeah, this position was a no-go. The most that it got up to was about 92. This was a no. Now, this one was one of the highlights from last week. So this is around Monday here, and we were looking at calls on gold. Okay, so it was trading around $187. You know, it looks like it had a steady continuation through the week with different, you know, with highs and lows, overall higher highs, and we did reach a peak of $191 on February 1st. So let's just check out the actual option contract. We were looking at March 15. We were looking at the March 190 call. Whoa! When we were looking at it, it was around $2.20 for the premium. Oh, whoa! But the highest that our premium reached was $4.57. Yeah, so that was definitely something. If you got some profits from GLD last week, then kudos to you. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get into this week's trades. All right, so first up is going to be a bullish position on WFC. That's actually Wells Fargo. And just looking at it here first on the daily chart up here, we can see that it's been in a pretty strong uptrend. And here you can see we're using the super trend indicator. Normally I would have moving averages, but I'm just kind of playing around. So yeah, you can see we've been in a pretty good uptrend since about last November with Wells Fargo. Now, one thing to see is the stock right now, it is at a monthly high. And if you see here, this isn't our monthly, but we're pretty close to our yearly high at $51.44. Now we're gonna get to that in a little bit. You can see it here on the daily chart, but I think you'll be able to see it a little bit better on the 4-hour chart. So let's just move down here, but you can kind of see even using this volume profile indicator over here. So this orange line right here, that's the value area high. And a lot of times that's looked at as resistance zone. So you can see we have some resistance back here from December the 15th. So we saw that here around December 14th, 15th. And we also reached that point on the 31st of January. So we had this little pullback here down to this high volume area. This is another important thing. This little dotted white line on the volume profile, this is where the most volume has been. So it's been around 49 million, around this 49. If after reaching this point, also kind of seeing the stochastics indicator here, it's somewhat giving us a we dropped down to that 20 range and we had a bullish cross upwards. So I'm interested to see if we're going to have a potential breakout of this 51.64 zone. So just with that, if I was going to get into a bullish position on WFC, I have my entry set for around $49.60. The reason is that's just, you know, higher than a resistance than we had from last week. Okay, so let's get into the actual position. Okay, so with WFC, January 17th calls, and this is going to be in 2025, and we're looking at the 57.5 calls. Now, I know you'll see, okay, that premium, it's a little bit little bit out there. I understand that, but we can see we have, you know, a lot of volume, a lot of open interest with this. It has a decent delta of 0.33, but what you can do is if you wanted something that has a lower premium, you can actually choose the $60 strike price. You know, you can see we had some decent volume, we had open interest, and the delta isn't too much further than the 57.5. So you can also choose that as well. All right, so next up, we're going to be looking at a bearish position on PLUG, that's plug, and right now it's trading at $4.66. This is kind of a cute little cheap look. So the first thing I want you to take note of is on the daily chart, you can see that we've been in a pretty strong long-term downtrend. That definitely indicates some bearish sentiment. We have some resistance around this $5 zone, which we actually just kind of rebounded from. So I'm wondering if after that rebound, could we potentially return to this high volume $3.80 zone. Okay, so theoretically that could be a potential pullback in this short-term uptrend. So I'm wondering if that could be the case, or could this be continuing that long-term downtrend? So for me, if I was going to get into a bearish position on plug, I have my entry set for $4.50. Another interesting thing, even on the 4-hour chart, our price is still trailing that resistance zone. It looks like it's a high volume area and also the value area high. So that's really, really interesting taking that into account. I'm wondering if we kind of come back down here, return to some of these high volume nodes here around that 350. So it's definitely going to be something to see going into next week for plug. Okay, so for plug, I'm going to be looking at the puts, and we're going back to the March 15th, and I'm looking at a 4.5. So this one is a little bit more, you know, more of a nice digestible price for the premium. It's going to be around $68 to $70. Delta is really nice, around 39. Theta is extremely nice. Volume and open interest, very cute. Okay, so this is really, the only thing I really don't care about is that high implied volatility, but you know, we'll just kind of see what happens with plug going into next week. All right, and let's get into our last position. Okay, and this is going to be a bullish position on AAL, that's American Airlines. Looking on the daily chart, it's kind of hard to say that we've been in an uptrend. It looks like for a majority we've been in a downtrend, but we could be working our way back up. It's a potential. One thing that's interesting is we are right here at a high volume POC point. Another thing, I just want to see if American continues in this pattern that it's been in, but if we did potentially return anywhere to, you know, this resistance that we have around $16, $17 or $19, I would definitely kind of want to see a breakout of this $14.80 period zone where we are here. Honestly, for me, if I was going to have a bullish entry for next week going into American, I would have my entry somewhere between $14.60 and I would also say like $14.80. Okay, so for American, okay, so I'm looking at the May 17th $15 calls. So this one is really interesting. We can see the premium is decent. I'm loving the delta, 0.51 delta, 5,000 volume traded on Friday. Open interest is amazing, and the implied volatility is pretty normal, evenly, like an even 38%, which is really cute. So this is something that I may definitely, you know, want to look into going into next week. But that's pretty much it for this video. If this video was exciting, it was helpful, eventful, anything, please make sure that you click that thumbs up button for me. It really helps the channel. Also subscribe and click that notification bell so that you get notified anytime I upload a new video for you guys. And if you haven't already, make sure that you go ahead and check out this video that we just posted on how many trading indicators do you use or would you want to use on your charts. Okay, so even with the chart that we were using, there's only about maybe 2 or 3 indicators on each one of those 3 time frames. So definitely get into this video. It's really going to give you some tea. Check that out. I'll catch you on the next one.